Welcome back, Generals. It is Friday. We are ending our week of welcome, and wow, what a week it's been. It has been great starting off the school year this way. I want to thank all of you kids out there that have been doing this, but personally, and from all of us on the WOW team, I want to thank you staff members. It's because of you that we've pulled this off, and the kids have benefited from it, and we appreciate all that you do. Now, let's go through and talk about some stuff that's going to finish up the rest of this week and what we got coming up.
Hey guys, don't forget your WOW dollars and your scavenger hunts. Those are due today at lunch. That's the last time we're taking them. You need to get those entered so you can win that raffle.
Also, today in 7th period, we're going to have a pep rally after the conclusion of 7th period. You're going to walk over with your 7th period. You need to pick 2 people. We're going to play a giant game of Kahoot with the whole school. We're going to find out who knows the most about the week of welcome, and we're going to have some cool prizes to give you guys if your class wins.
Remember, there's going to be first, second, and third place prize in that. It's going to be based off a week of welcome and pride, so make sure you're there. Also, back to school dance is tonight. It's only $5. Buy a ticket from an ASB kid, a Link Crew kid, or the finance office. Or, if you're one of the 20 people, the next 20 people that go to Mrs. Pam Pinner and say, I want a free dance ticket, she'll give it to you. All you got to do, be the next 20 people to go up to Mrs. Pinner and say, I want a free dance ticket, and it's yours. Now, we're going to transition on over. We got a very important message from a very important person. Let's throw it on over to you, Mr. Shipley.
All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. And good morning again, Generals. I hope you guys are having a great start of the school year and having a great week with all that's happening and all the great things coming with Week of Welcome and all the fun stuff happening at Shafter High. And just wanted to take this moment. This is school-wide, that as we begin to move forward and take it from the fun stuff and activities, but also take it down a very serious road. And that would be when we ask ourselves what's important here in school and Shafter High. Of course, instruction, of course, programs, but most importantly, our safety. So with that, I'm going to walk through a couple slides, a couple bits of information. I know a lot of this is heavy, but with it, it's something that we all need to take care of, look at, think about, and especially right now as we start into the school year. So many of you are familiar that on the very first day of school, every teacher, every classroom, every period throughout the entire campus did what they did, safety response protocol. And that was unique to each area. In other words, whether it was an auditorium and PE or in a regular classroom, that in every class is unique when we think about if there's something that's an emergency or an active shooter, what is our response and how do we actually respond to that and mentally begin to prepare for that. You ought to know also that that wasn't just unique to Shafter High, but that was truly throughout the entire district. So literally all schools within Kern High on that day, every single period, were going through every class, every part of the day to look at what would safety look like and what would we do. In your classroom, you may see some new terminology, some new posters, and with that is some of the language and some of the vernacular has changed as they really begin to look at school safety. So I'm going to kind of walk you through some of that and kind of give you an overview. And a lot of that has to do with, you may now hear something that's termed as a lockout versus a lockdown versus evacuation procedures, and then of course shelter in place and what do we do if there's a natural catastrophe or if something happens. Okay, the first is a little bit of a change, and this would be what they term as a lockout. And while in the past we'd seen some of this where there might be something in the local neighborhood or maybe local law enforcement reaches out, and it could be anything from a high-speed chase or maybe there's a hazard or some type of danger, and local law enforcement will reach out to the school and just give us sort of that caution of, here's what we have locally. It's not a direct, imminent threat to the campus, just out of safety. You may need to lock the perimeter, and that's now what's called as a lockout. So when that happens, that's very clear. It's throughout the intercom, throughout the system, throughout other communication that we put out to the campus, that the campus is on a lockout, which is simply just a perimeter. Now with that, it's a little different than a lockdown, because in a lockdown, we'll talk about that in a bit, but with a lockout, that's more of just a perimeter and business as usual on the interior. So in other words, day-to-day classroom assignments, lab activities, whatever's happening in that classroom at that time still can continue. Moving into a lockdown, that's what a lot of you are probably more familiar with. Throughout the years, if something happens and you hear the announcement that the campus is on a lockdown, with a lockdown that is actually an immediate serious danger, that there's something happening on campus or very close to the campus, that there's an imminent threat of safety to something that we need to immediately lock down everybody, and that lockdown procedure would then begin. At that time then, that's when all students need to immediately come inside. Everybody needs to get indoors. The doors are then locked. The lights are down. Turn off the lights. You move out of sight. You maintain silence. You do not open the door. You take roll, and then of course we account for all students. This is what many of us remember practicing and continue to practice, that this is that time, depending on where you're at, what classroom you're in, what area of campus you're at, that you find yourself and you try to seclude and lock down as quickly as you can to minimize the threat. At this time, typically this happens with local law enforcement. We're immediately notified, and then from there we react to whatever the situation is. And being part of some of these, I can tell you wholeheartedly that law enforcement is there very quickly, and they begin to assess what's happening, what's next, and they regularly communicate with the threat, wherever that threat is or whatever that threat may be. In the run, hide, fight that a lot of us have practiced, this is just good information that as we think about any one of these scenarios, as you think about your areas, you think about the classroom you're in, that you have sort of a mental picture, a mental idea of where would I run to, how would I escape, how would I get out of here. And that's one of the main reasons why we did this on the very first day, that you have an idea of what exit would I take, where would I go, and be able to get yourself out of there as quickly as possible. Of course, the lockdown that many of us are familiar with, and that is when the doors are locked, the lights are down, you find an area in the classroom that's out of sight, and you become very quiet and dark, and you try to minimize that if by chance there was an active shooter or something that was happening, that you cannot be easily seen or accessed. And then of course the run, the hide, and then the fight, that in some of these cases there may be a situation where you may actually have to fight your way through it. And this is very humbling and also very scary to think about being put in that situation. And that's in a time that you'd be acting aggressively. You want to incapacitate the assailants, throwing objects, yelling, doing whatever you can to try to fight against that threat. At this time, in these situations, by now law enforcement is there. They begin to assess, and depending on that threat, whatever that threat may be, they are then going to begin to walk through the campus and identify where they need to go, what they need to do, because you can imagine that each one of these are going to be very, very unique to the campus, to the threat, to whatever's happening at the time. And then as they do that, they will then basically become what's called the incident command, and they will then go classroom to classroom to classroom, hallway to hallway to hallway, and begin to clear depending on what they know at that time. This is also part of the different evacuation procedures. In this case, if it was a lockdown, the evacuation would be handled by that of local law enforcement. And then in other cases, as you know, whether it be earthquake drills, fire drills, a lot of that just is becoming familiar with your evacuation routes, where to evacuate. But of course, with that, we also know that as we evacuate from this, each one of these are unique, but it's also why we practice these different scenarios, just so everybody's familiar with what to do and how to do it. And then finally, again, I kind of mentioned earlier that a bit of a mental rehearsal, that as you think about this period by period, day by day, teacher by teacher, that in any one of these you have a kind of a mental idea of what would you do. And as we continue to practice and become aware of it, the best advice I can give is the idea of being proactive versus reactive, and that in any one of these cases, that somebody had an idea, somebody knew something, somebody wondered about something. And to share with you, to know that if you ever think, if you ever feel that maybe there is some type of threat, or there is someone who may follow through with anything or have an idea of this, tell someone. Because in every one of these, when as they begin to investigate, someone knew something. And we are a Shafter family, we are this community, and to know that we all take care of each other, and to always let us know if you see anything that could potentially turn into this. So with that, I hate to on this Friday be so heavy, but I know that it is important that we talk about it, think about it, and prepare for it. So with that, Generals, we're off to a great start. I'm going to hand it back over to Mr. Varel, Mr. Feaster, and let's have a great year. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Shipley. Kids, very important. Hopefully you paid attention to that. We hope none of that ever happens, of course, but we always want to be prepared. So, first thing we got, back to school night.
All right, guys, keep in mind, looking a little forward to the future, on Monday, 6 p.m., tell your parents, tell your guardians, tell your grandparents, tell your siblings, bring them in. We want to meet them, they want to meet us. Come to the back to school night. Important information is going to be distributed there.
Very important, Monday night, go to the auditorium first, then you're going to go ahead and you're going to get your schedule right outside that. That's what you need to be. Don't miss it. Your family doesn't want to miss it. Be cool, be there. Also, yesterday's poll winner, right here on the screen right now, you won a library book. No, you got a yearbook, my friend, not a library book. We're giving you a yearbook. Right here, Twitter poll winner.
Also, don't forget, on Monday, we're going to be starting general dollars again. Same principle as WOW dollars, okay, except now you can use those general dollars at the Pride store. Don't forget all the stuff we taught you guys about Pride in the week of welcome.
Collect those Pride dollars, buy those great prizes. Hey, it has been great these first 3 days. We love the fact that you're here. We love the fact that we're all generals. We are one big general family. Looking forward to Monday, looking forward to the rest of the year. Good job, generals. Keep it classy, and see you Monday morning.